Apple users love to tell you, it just works, but we found that if you look a bit closer, that's not quite true, and there's all kinds of excuses for why. But switching to macOS, at least for us, has been tough to say the least. We both found the desktop kind of unintuitive, found that it lacked obvious features, and there was a ton of software that we needed that just plain doesn't just work.
We could not wait until the 30 days was up so we could ditch these turds.
Why are you still using them then? It's been 2 months.
Because, if we're being honest, it's not really any worse than Windows, and some aspects are clearly better. But with that said, I do believe that there's a lot that Apple could do to make the experience better. Not just for people like us that are relatively new to macOS, but also for the rest of their users. So here is how our 30-day Apple challenge went, and why 60 days later, we're both still on macOS. Just like I'm still doing segues to our sponsor.
Nexigo. Their Tri-Vision Ultra 4K projector provides a true on-the-go movie experience with 2 built-in 15-watt speakers, a screen size of up to 150 inches, and Dolby Vision support. Click our link to learn more.
We wanted to kick things off with some aspects of our Mac journey that were just a breath of fresh air.
Apple really does make a great first impression. The packaging was fantastic, both pretty and with no plastic to be seen, and macOS itself is, well, by just about any measure, a great looking OS. The animations are nice, and the design language is consistent. It makes Windows feel like, honestly, kind of a mess in comparison.
Yeah, and even as an Android user, I found a lot of value in AirDrop. I've never really had trouble sending files to myself. There are 100 different ways to do it, but being able to really quickly share stuff across Apple devices like the prompter that we're reading this off of has been amazing. I know you're already typing up a manifesto about how quick share on Android is just as good, but the sharing feature is only good as the user base, and under 20% of our nerds in this office have even used it, versus near universal awareness and usage of AirDrop.
Touch ID setup was also super easy, and because I grabbed an Apple Watch for the challenge, I was able to unlock my devices simply by wearing it near them. Even accounting for the nannying around altering system settings. Are you sure you want to do that? Are you really sure? I found that I needed my system pin far less often to wake my system compared to my Windows devices.
Not owning an Apple Watch, I definitely missed Face ID on Mac. Like, they have the space here in the freaking notch. But a cool workaround I found is the caffeinate command. You can go into the terminal, type caffeinate-d, and it will prevent the display from sleeping until the terminal window is closed. This was huge for reviewing videos, following recipes, and referring to instruction manuals where I might need to refer to torque specs for a bunch of bolts but not want to touch my laptop with transmission oil on my hands.
With the buttering up out of the way, I'm not gonna lie, the initial few days was really difficult. And the first thing that made me wanna huck my Mac at the wall was screenshot management. Compared to snipping tool on Windows, the macOS solution is just plain not as user-friendly. First, to get to it, you have to hit Command Shift 3, 4, or 5, which is not as easy to remember as print screen. And then once you're in there, the tool itself is okay at best. It is okay though. The thing that really bothered me though was that the share button gives you a whole bunch of great options as long as you only want Apple options. When in practice, I nearly always want to share via Teams or Gmail, probably to a colleague. Also, by default, all of the screenshots just out onto your desktop, which is a nightmare for clutter.
Oh, and that integrated markup tool is so bad.
Tell me about it.
Window management initially was a huge problem for me. Thankfully, the fix for the unnecessary borders is simple, but I still found the built-in snapping to be lacking. After downloading tiles though and setting it up, this is fantastic. I do not miss fancy zones at all. And one thing that I just learned after over a month is that you can enable app expose on the trackpad, which can make things way easier than seeing literally everything in mission control.
One thing that wasn't as easy to fix was getting this thing to output to my monitor correctly. I took your advice, by the way, and I ended up using my MacBook Air in docked mode rather than using my Mac Mini as a separate desktop. But what I found was that once I connected it, there was no obvious way to increase my refresh rate or to independently adjust scaling and resolution. Also, it would only scale correctly on my monitor if HDR was enabled. How does HDR change the output resolution? Now, Better Display Pro is there to give Mac users back the control that they need, but this is one of those classic cases on Mac of, why do I need a third-party tool for this? I thought it's supposed to just work.
I do think we agree, though, that software quibbles aside, these laptops are fantastic.
Oh, they really are. Even coming from Snapdragon on Windows, right? The battery life was incredible. I mean, part of that was my new habit of plugging my laptop in every time I sat down at my desk, giving it a little bit of juice every time I did that. And the way that that worked out for me is that over the last 2 months, I've done whatever I want on my laptop for however long I want, and I have never once worried about finding a wall outlet. That was honestly a pretty life-changing experience for me, and I can understand why, all other issues aside, people could be attracted to this. Also, in general, it's just a great machine. The screen, the keyboard, the trackpad, the speakers, even the performance. They've all been fantastic, and we can dunk on Apple all day for their overpriced upgrades to these machines, but the base model ones, like the one that I bought, even the value is compelling. Now, I missed the return window on this. You probably saw all the comments about that. Guys, our videos don't, come out on exactly the days that things happen. But when they announced the new models, I wasn't even that mad. I still feel great about this machine for $1,000.
I do kind of wish that you got to use this MacBook Pro though, because man, is this thing ever good. It's everything that you just mentioned, but better in every way. The screen and speakers are among the best I have ever experienced on a laptop. 1,600 nits in HDR.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is insane. I was able to work in direct sunlight with no problems at all. The battery hasn't been quite as good as the Snapdragon laptop that I had before. I arrived with 15% battery on set and I now have to have it plugged in, but as long as I don't as long as I don't completely disregard it, it has been totally fine. We didn't put this in here, but can I complain about MagSafe for a second?
Yeah,
I freaking hate this thing.
Dude,
it falls out all the time.
Hey Reese, can you throw those to me? Check this out. Note how these are still white?
Yeah.
You know how Apple ships their products in white, so the second you use them, they look like crap? They still look great, don't they? That's because I haven't touched them. They're so USB-C all the things.
And also, if you use an angle grinder, all of the metal gets stuck in here and it's so hard to get out.
I thought you were gonna propose an angle grinder fix to your MagSafe issues. I was gonna be like, really, Alex?
No.
Coming back to the software, one thing that I thought was really cool was on top of continuity, where you can copy paste between your machines and pick up where you left off in your browser. I was using an iPhone during the challenge and it was pretty great. You can even screen share your phone to your laptop now, which I loved, but also felt like was a bit of a missed opportunity. Can you imagine how awesome this feature would be if Apple finally made a MacBook with a touchscreen? I know they're not gonna do it because reasons, but it would add yet another mwah to machines that are already freaking great.
Until you plug them into a monitor.
Yeah. macOS on a laptop, fantastic. macOS on the desktop, Apple has clearly put so much thought and so much effort into delivering the best trackpad experience on the market. But then none of that translates to a traditional keyboard and mouse. Not only has Apple defied any and all feedback and designed what is possibly the worst mouse on the market, but they've taken it a step further and they've refused to support basic functions on the third-party mice that users will obviously prefer. Actions like zooming in, quickly scrolling, and finding your open windows. Super easy on a trackpad, and in Windows, and on Linux, and on Android. But on macOS, these crucial functions require you to use the keyboard or third-party software. I even needed a silly third-party application in order to get the back button on the side of my mouse to work in Safari. Like, guys, those back buttons have been standard on mice for as long as I've been eligible to vote.
So the 30s?
And not every problem that we had could be fixed with a quick app download like the back button. My Wi-Fi was comparable to like earlier mobile Ryzen machines. And I mean that in the worst possible MediaTek kind of way. I'm talking slow handshakes, random disconnections, just general slowness for no good reason. Now, I do have the M2 MacBook Air because I bought it the wrong time, which does have an older Wi-Fi 6 card, and in fairness, most of the issues that I had were while I was traveling and using like rando hotspots. But from looking online, I am far from the only person having these issues with the M2.
Meanwhile, on the updated M4 MacBook Pro, this has been possibly the best Wi-Fi experience I've ever had, and Bluetooth as well has been great. All of my internet problems have happened on the $10,000 Mac Pro that I use at my desk, plugged in.
What?
Yeah, see, the Mac Pro, which again is 10 grand, uses a budget Aquantia chipset for their 10 gig networking, which we have had loads of issues in this office for just on our Windows machine, and turns out it's just as bad on Mac. 2 to 3 times a day, my internet will just completely drop out. I'll go onto Wi-Fi and I can't be reviewing footage or even watching YouTube videos over that on that computer. Also, since I'm grousing, there seems to be a bug with multi-monitor setups that causes waking from sleep to take forever. Like, actually get up, fill my water bottle, oh wait, it's woken from sleep, great.
Which is especially bizarre because the cold boot up time for these machines is like miraculously fast.
It's way faster.
Now, one thing that made me furious is that the first time you click on an application, you ever notice this? Oh. And it doesn't seem to happen every time.
No, every time.
Is it every time?
Every time.
Okay, because I think I gaslit myself into thinking that it wasn't
Same.
real. But the first time you click on an application, it just focuses on that application instead of actually putting the cursor into the field that you clicked on or actuating the button that you wanted to press. This has led to numerous times where I will click a search bar or a message field and I'll start typing, only to realize that I needed to click it again for the field to actually work. And look, I know, this might not sound like a big deal. And for a lot of Apple users, it might not be. But I am not a fan of random extra clicks, and I believe that it is objectively bad design.
One thing I did during this month that I wasn't planning on doing was switching over to Apple Music. Previously I was using Tidal, but their Android Auto just completely stopped working. They did a bunch of layoffs and it seems to be affecting them. But Apple Music might be the best example of everything that is good and bad with Apple all in one. First of all, the streaming, it's high quality and it is flawless. It works no matter where I am, and I don't have random dropouts like I was having with Tidal, and it even sounds better in my car.
Really? That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense at all, but I guess something to do with recompression or...
Well, who knows? I mean, AirPods sound better on Apple, so if you're allowed to use their proprietary nonsense, maybe...
Yeah, I don't know. Some sort of resampling. The problem that I've had with the app, though, is that it has design that is clearly dated back to iTunes and the original iPods. Like, it is super dated, and there are so many confusing menus that can do totally different things depending on where you decide to click, and you can feel that in the whole OS.
I found the security situation on Mac really interesting. Like, on the one hand, even the $1,000 MacBook Air has security features that you would typically only get on way more expensive business Windows machines. And they do a lot of really good things. They make you create a secure password for the device, and they generally enforce good practices. But then on the other hand, it feels like Apple actively encourages users to throw their personal iCloud data and passwords onto that same laptop without much regard for whether it's for personal use or for work use.
Yeah, on Windows, it's super easy to have a work Chrome and a personal Chrome so that I can keep my professional algorithm and my personal algorithm separate.
On the subject of gaming,
Yes.
which I assume is, well, maybe part of both of them, but
Yeah.
anyway, I didn't. I just didn't. I know that you can game on a Mac, and in fairness to Apple, the library of games that you can play natively is growing all the time, and you aren't even limited to that. You can run games that are Windows exclusive by using software like Parallels. It's just that, A, I've been really busy, and B, I just didn't feel like dealing with the compatibility issues. I don't game on my laptop much anyway.
How nice for you. Unfortunately for me, one program that I need for my job is exclusively available on Windows, and that is SolidWorks.
Right.
So I needed a VM. At first I tried UTM, which is super easy to use and great for anyone that just needs to run something simple in Windows, but it does not support GPU pass-through yet, so SolidWorks and the games that I wanted to run, well, they didn't run. After that failure, thanks for the Parallels license. It was $100, but that entry fee was well worth it. Parallels is the best VM solution that I have ever seen. The setup is super simple, the GPU pass-through just worked, and although there is a bit of lag that I found, it was totally fine for SolidWorks, but not quite good enough for gaming in my opinion. During my time on Mac, I only really tested 2 games. Balatro worked perfectly.
I would expect it would.
Keeping me entertained on a flight, but other games that you would expect to work, like UFO 50, a game that is literally designed to run on 30-year-old hardware, would not even launch. I attempted to run it over Steam Link, but lag spikes would make that unpleasant, and the lack of responsiveness in Parallels made me just decide not to play that game until I get a Windows laptop again. I know there will probably be a bunch of people in the comments saying, oh, I run games fine on Parallels and it's great. I am a professional electronics nitpicker, and I have found the latency just a bit immersion breaking.
Now, to be clear, just because he's fussy doesn't mean that it should be a deal breaker for everyone, by any means. But we just want people to know that if you're planning to pick up a MacBook for long-term use and gaming is a priority, we just recommend making sure that your must-plays are macOS native or that you are not that fussy about input latency. Bottom line then, I can't say enough good things about my MacBook. I just can't say quite the same about macOS. I mean, it's not that my frustrations are any worse than the frustrations that I have for Windows or Android or iOS or anything else. It's just that the argument that it's a smooth, just works experience is objectively false because it requires just as much faffing about and tinkering with third-party applications and digging into settings as anything else. When I changed natural scrolling to disabled for my mouse, it turned it off for my trackpad. Can you not have different settings for natural scrolling for a trackpad and a mouse? How is that even possible? And what really makes me mad about it is it's the kind of thing that if Apple could just budget a couple of shots of espresso to one of their many talented developers, it could be probably fixed in an afternoon. And it highlights a major issue for me. I just think it's very clear where Apple's priorities have been over the last 15 years, and macOS isn't very high up there, which could explain some of this rot.
Now, Apple could change this. They have an entire product stack that now uses Apple Silicon. There's very little hardware reasons that the iPad could not just flip between iPadOS and macOS mode, making it an incredible dual machine. But after spending the last couple of months on macOS, it is very clear to me that that is a pipe dream.
Me too.
And right after this video, Apple did just that, making it even more clear that
macOS is the past and iPadOS is the future. It doesn't have to be that way, but that 30% commission on every app means that Apple has decided it will be that way. So with that in mind, are you going back to Windows?
well, for the entire 30 days that we had this, I swore that on March 6th, I would be getting rid of this the first second that I could.
It is now April the 9th.
Yep, I have not bothered yet at all.
And yeah, that is kind of the thing. These days, the operating system plays such a small role in the computing experience. Like, I don't use my operating system, I use my applications, many of which are just a web browser. And as long as the OS is able to just get out of my way for the most part, it doesn't even matter which one I'm using. It's just like, man, it would be so easy for Apple to make macOS amazing And it sucks that they don't seem to care enough to do it.
There's an update for our switching to Apple Video.
Oh?
For one thing, this is still in my backpack.
Still?
Still. But
Okay,
even
I've
more,
switched by now. Wait, what about second MacBook Pro?
I bought this with my own money. I have not purchased a laptop in like 8 years. I opened this piece of crap up, this Windows garbage. The driver update literally failed, bricked it. It took me like 2 hours to get it. And I was just like, F this, and ordered a MacBook.
I can't think of many people on staff who in the past were more adamantly anti-Mac than this man.
Parallels. Windows on ARM, they have fixed so much stuff. I can run SolidWorks on this better than I can run it on this or this. And the screen is like nothing else. Have you seen the labs results for the HDR on this?
No, I haven't yet.
It's insane.
Well, I've seen what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very successful challenge.
What I care about, though, is our sponsor.
Nexigo! Whether it's for your home theater room or for an event away from home, Nexigo's Tri-Vision Ultra 4K projector is a great fit thanks to 2600 ANSI lumens of ultra bright visuals, a screen size of 80 to 150 inches, and support for Dolby Vision and HDR10+. Enjoy crystal clear picture quality with color accuracy measuring at a delta E of less than 1. And use its smart AI screen adaptation to take advantage of features like auto screen fit, intelligent obstacle avoidance, and autofocus. And with 2 built-in 15-watt speakers, it really is an all-in-one solution. Plus, you can use its 3 HDMI 2.1 inputs to project from just about anything. It even has a neat hidden compartment for a Fire TV stick. All those features packed into a unit about the size of a shoebox and a handle for easy carrying too. Use our link in the description to pick up a Nexigo Tri-Vision Ultra today.
If you guys enjoyed this video, maybe check out part 1, where we went through the process of choosing our Macs. It ended up being a really interesting experience that, as an Apple outsider, was more complicated and nuanced than I expected.
Yeah.